Alright, so I'm waiting in line, okay, and it's 9:31. There's really nowhere warm to sit because everyone has to stand outside until you get inside. So I thought about, hey, content, right? I make some really good content, and I can talk about time travelers. So yeah, in time traveler culture. Alright, so there's a lot going on with that. So I spaced out say a lot, so it's really confusing. But anyways, to exist in their culture, you have to have contract. They don't have corporations, they have contract. Or they have corporations, they don't have countries. They don't have governments. Charity, taxation, and incarceration are all death penalty offenses. Who's going to pay for it, right? And even then, a person still has the right to work because they have the right to eat. So if you're not going to put them to death, you still have to pay them.
Por favor.
That's one way to do it. Just walk in there and be like, oh, I have an emergency. Look at the number. Instead of, holy fuck. Alright, hold on. Excuse me, sir?
Yeah.
Is this just to get a number?
Yes, I believe so. I think this is for registration.
Oh, so they're taking your name and number and all that?
I believe so, yes.
Alright, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alright. So, wow, it's going to be a lot longer line than I thought because they're taking your name and number. They're not just giving you a number. Wow, right? So, we've got a good solid 45-minute wait still just to get a number. Alright, so, time traveler culture. Alright, yeah, everything's contract, right? Everything you have to pay for 1 day's wage. Alright, that's how you get a right to do anything and everything is 1 day's wage. That's where you get your color from. But you can also sign on with a corp or be born into a corporation, and your contract through that corp guarantees you the right to wear those colors. So here in America, would most likely have red, white, and blue no matter what, and would probably have a full spectrum of 12 colors, and a color wheel would probably just have that just because I mean that's who we are. But if not, no matter what, we'd probably have the red, white, and blue, and probably also black. I'm not sure about that because like depending on what you're doing and where you're at, certain colors, you know. And so yeah, besides that, every other color you have to pay 1 day's wage to wear. So if you basically wanted a full spectrum color wheel, say I want these colors, that's basically, what would you call that, 2 weeks, like 15 days wage. You have the standard 12 plus white, clear, black, alright, so that's 15. And if you're not counting clear, you still have 14 2 weeks wage. And so, yeah, I'm just walking in circles because it's cold as fuck, and I'm moving my body to keep warm. I'm not wearing any thermals. It's just like pants on a hoodie and undergarments. So, yeah. So, everything you have to pay for in their culture. All your rights, everything, you gotta have a reason for it and blah blah this and that. So even if you wanted to, let's say, like have all the colors, and then you want to like say like a different spectrum or a different hue or different whatever, you would have to pay a whole nother 12 days wage. It couldn't just be 1 or 2 weeks wage, 14 or 15. It couldn't just be 1 or 2. You'd have to get the full spectrum of it all. You know, you couldn't half-ass it, alright? Certain things you can't half-ass because you might try thieving or robbing or lying. So they just cut that out at the beginning and say, no, you just got to buy them all at the beginning. Yeah, and you're not allowed to have more than $10,000, but you're saying, well, wait, this is so many wage. Oh, well, you're not allowed to have so much in cash, and then after you spend so much in cash, you're allowed to have so much on you, and you're also allowed to save, you have to invest, and all this other blah, 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 weirdo shit. But that's basically it. The quick and the short of it is invest, or spend, invest, save. Alright, you're not allowed to hoard money. And then you're like, well, how am I supposed to get 14 days wages if I'm not allowed to have more than 10 days wages, because they get $1,000 a day. They're regulated at $215 an hour minimum. Even as an indentured servant, which is a slave, you still have to feed yourself. 1 day's wage is $1,000, 5 hours, $200. That leftover 15 goes to whoever you owe to pay off your indentured servitude. So you have the 215 hour minimum, and from that, if you're an indentured servant, you get $200, and you're an indentured servant to someone, so they get that leftover 15 an hour until you're done paying it off. And you can pay in more if you want, but no matter what, you get your 1 day's wage, and it's 1 day's wage per right. So if you're like, well, wait, let's say I am an indentured servant, but at the same time I still want to buy color, and that's 14 days, right? And I'm not allowed to have more than 10,000. Well, you can say, oh, I'm going to put money in a bank, and you can go do that, and the bank will be like, all right, you can hold on money until you get to this point, and then when it gets to that point, it will be spent on those colors. And that's how you do it, because who are you going to pay? Who are you going to pay that money to, right? Well, that money has to be paid to reality for you to earn that right and forever have it. And so you earn it by purchasing clothing or whatever that has that color, that whatever. And that sounds kind of like a sham, because you could do whatever the fuck you want with $14,000 purchasing something with that color or those colors, you know. And yeah, it is just like that, dude. It's so like, yeah, you could totally do that. Just be like, oh, I got to buy this because it was this color. And it's like, well, it doesn't normally come in that color. And it's like, well, I paid this much for it to come in that color, which proves I paid that much, right? That's how that works. Because, you know, all you got to do is spend money and prove you on the right. So, yep, 6 minutes and this line has not moved. Not one bit. Alright, so time travelers, still, oh my god, Q&A would be so much easier. Alrighty, so it's a baseline. You're probably going to be like, where they come from? Well, eventually their culture came about, had certain laws, encountered time travel, and then basically they made edicts, and their laws come off of edicts, and their edicts are the laws and all that stuff. And so it's basically this regulation of how much a person paid minimum $215 an hour, and to mass produce and to make a profit, and that's an edict. And that's regulated on a gold standard, which is also based on an edict, and it has to have more value than what was put into it, not just as profit. So that's where gold gets its extra value in the gold standard. Yeah, that's a real important point right there. So think about that. That's why gold gets its gold standard, because it's also it's used as the gold standard, and you still have the edict. So you have to produce the gold, which could be mining or panning or whatever. And with that said, you have to not just make profit, facilitate a value up more than that, because you're using that as the standard. So it's like a triple, you know, because you have the usage, the neutral, and the fallback, something like that. It's minimum triple. It might be 7. It might be 7 times actually, because they're Acuvus, and it always goes off of 7. So yeah, I think it might be 7 times. And that's all described, like certain shit like that: the neutral, the fallback, the insurance, the double down, the upfront, the payment, the investment, something like that, you know. And yeah, I'm at the door, and it's 8 minutes, and it's not any warmer, and then all I did was just people got more crowded inside. So, I'm gonna, oops, hold this door right there, and keep talking. So, the gold standard, the edict, minimum wage is $2.15 an hour. You can never go more. You can't even go to double that. They have the edict, so you can't go above a certain thing. So it's not like here where someone can make $5 an hour, but a corporate executive makes $5,000 an hour. No, it's nothing like that. So yeah, I think a corporate executive might make 3 something, but it's not double. So it's not even 230. It's not even 430. So yeah, nobody's even making like $400 an hour. So yeah, because the gold standard in the edict and how everything's regulated with profits and stuff like that. So that right there makes their money and value of solid worth without question or consideration, because everything is placed on the gold standard in the edict. Every employee is what we call a citizen. Each employee has their contract with reality through the corporation, which is backed by the corporation, which means, look, if somebody went and fucked with one of our citizens, we're going to go fuck them up, and we're going to go get them, because we back our citizens, right? So if somebody fucking fucks with one of our employees, we back our fucking employees. That's how they do that.
This is for the eyeglasses?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah?
Yes, it's for the eyeglasses. It
Cool.
started at 9 o'clock.
9, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, so it's 9:41. This is the end of the line. And,
Okay. Is that pretty good?
Yep. Man, would you like to go in? You're on crutches. Alright, then I'm going to go stand in this corner. Thank you, ma'am, for opening my door. Appreciate that. Alrighty, so back to what I was getting. Oh yeah, the corporation will be like, oh hey, we're going to back our people. You don't mess with our people. And all of our people, they pay in at least one day's wage as a primary investment to reality to say, hey, I exist. If only everything costs one day. Alright, just one day, you exist. So with that said, you may be like, okay, where does that money get spent and who does it go to? Well, it goes to the corporation and it gets spent on things like buildings, honestly, roads, stuff like that, machines and devices and other things like your housing. It's just mass produced in such quantity and so cheap and so strong in technological advancement. They can just produce certain things dirt cheap, and so they're just basically paying a small fee for everything because everything has to have profit. And so they basically pay their own people to make their own things because it's cheaper that way. And everyone does that for a certain degree of reality. You know, it's usually one day, right? One day, that's all you have to do is pay one day's wage for all that. So, yeah, because there's like quadrillions of them, you know. And you may wonder, like, how did that happen? Well, think about it. If there's like, we span planets, all right? And then some of us span planets and galaxies, and we're like, hey, we got some technological advancement. We're going to be spanning some timelines here. And we open up timelines, and those timelines are totally different. They don't even have our planets or our stars or our people. And some of them don't have people, some of them do. Anyways, we go into them, and we start mining, setting up colonies and shop, and we just teleport from timeline to timeline. And so then the uniformity and regulation gets put in with the gold standard in the edict and all their laws, and then they can just basically go back in time and further away in time and set up shop again. So that way, by the time what could mathematically be considered how should I put that? An equation or an equality or two catching up to the time they left, they're already baseline standard with their laws, their rules, their regulations, and their gold standard in their eating. And they're even more advanced. So they basically leave that first timeline behind from the second timeline and just keep going timeline to timeline to timeline with advancement. And sometimes they just hop back in time to a timeline prior and go further through advancement and then baseline from there on. And that allows them to have a really good standard and regulation of their baseline in time to facilitate their culture, their society, their laws, their profits, their money-making machine of commercial activity that everyone has to pay to exist. And so you're going to eventually think, hey, I do want a child. That does cost money. So they have basically their laws is you have to have money in your account, already prepaid, ready, good to go for a certain amount because charity's illegal. So you put all that money forward, and then all that money is spent, and then let's say it's like 50 grand, all right, to raise a child to wherever they can get to start working on their own and paying off their own thing. And sometimes you spend a lot of money, more money on a child, so that way it takes them longer to pay you back because they have to pay you back. So let's say it's like 100 grand, or you're wealthy and you're spending all this stuff like $1 million. So it could take them like 100 years or 1,000 years because they also one day's wage you don't age. One day's wage you can de-age. Think about that. Look whatever age you want to de-age it to be like a couple days to a week, but it costs 1 day's wage, and you have the right to do that because you just want that. What do you call that? Having children again. All right, so yeah, it could take them 500 years to pay you back 1,000. It doesn't matter. And you can set that up so that way they can't make stupid decisions, and it's your property, so people can't harm your property or they die. Remember, everything's a death penalty if you can't pay for it. So if somebody tries harming your child and you spend 50 grand into it, you're owed 50 grand. Or your child's owed 50 grand, or you're both owed 50 grand. Alright, yeah, stuff like that. And even if you're paid the 50 grand, your child didn't pay back you the 50 grand, so your child still owes you, so your child is still basically kind of like your indigent servant, but it's not considered that when it's your child. It's a little different because the child's born into that way. Alright, so with that said, wow, look at that, 15-16 minutes in, right? 15:50, and we're just through the door. 16 minutes to get through the door, not even the double doors, just one of the doors where it's even warmer, not completely warm, but it's still cold to lean against the glass. Alright, so 16 minutes in, so children have to pay back everything that's spent. So if you start out with an account with 100 grand in it, and that's all that's used, and let's say after like 12 years, or whatever, 10 years, alright? There's like 97,000 used of it, and there's 3 grand left over. Basically, that 3 grand goes into an account with the kid, or just goes back to the parents and negate it from the original 10 grand. But that kid still owes the 10 grand to be completely considered free in its own contract, its own citizen, not an indentured servant or a child. It's now a legal adult, basically. Because whenever you pay back anything, you have your own contract to exist. That's your constitution. You have your constitution, your rights, your ability to be your person, your own thing. You're your adult. You're legally responsible for you. As an indentured servant, sometimes they can go to your owner and be like, yo, dude, whatever. And it's up to your owner. You can pay it off and say, well, no, my servant still owes me money because I owed him money and he didn't pay me off, and I had to pay off this other stuff, so the other stuff's tacked on because charity is illegal. So the child eventually has to pay off their parents to be legally their own person. Alright, now us in our timeline, we can go with a, what do you call that, report and sign on, but it's going to be different because we'll be putting like proximity timelines, stuff like that, that you really can't really fully interact with their culture because it's so scientifically advanced. They think we're so stupid and violent that we will just harm people and think it's funny. And to say, oh, the Bible teaches mercy and forgiveness, I think it'd be okay. Because remember, they don't have taxation, incarceration, or charity. So everything has to be paid for. And you're not going to go to prison. So there it's the death penalty. Here they think, oh, haha, you're not going to kill me, you're just going to send me to prison, I can get a good lawyer, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, yeah, none of that shit. So if you're like an adult and you encounter them, you're basically put on like a lifelong probationary period until you can really prove you know how to understand. And if you can do that, then you're probably wealthy enough where you really don't give a fuck about getting involved in certain bullshit, because you can just enjoy various luxuries and kick it and party. That's their main culture, is kicking it and partying. Seriously. That is their main culture. It's just like, hey, we're scientifically advanced. We just have to pay for all our own stuff. We're just going to kick it and party and not give a fuck. So, yeah. I'm going to go turn this off because it's like 19 minutes in. I'm about to get into a separate line, walk through the second set of doors where it's a little warmer, and have my name and phone number taken, and then I will get a number, and then I think later on they're going to call me in like 15 minutes or whenever. So we had us a little conversation about time travel culture. It's just a lot more. Yeah, pull a lot of shit. Aunt Jemima Fofana, the Diplodix. Aunt Jemima Fofana and the Diplodix. Smooth fucking operator right there. All sorts of stuff. Had funny words, funny code words, phrases. But it's 20 minutes in.
If anyone speak English or both, you can get in this line. Only Spanish speaking in this line.
Oh, excuse me. Excuse me, please.
But if you speak English and Spanish, get in this line.
Alright, so here we are, 20 minutes in. Got a little, like, 2 people ahead because I speak English. But anyways, here we go. Cutting it out. Peace.